Hey everyone, and welcome. So, today we're going to talk about something really powerful: how to take all that raw data you have and turn it into a real business asset. We're going to walk through how you can build a data pipeline on Google Cloud that's not just smart, but also automated and compliant. Let's dive right in. You know, every single business has a story hidden inside its data. It's the story of your customers, your products, your day-to-day operations. But here's the thing: that story doesn't just tell itself. You have to build it. So, how do you actually take all that raw, messy information and piece it together into a narrative that's actually valuable? Well, the answer is a data pipeline. I think the best way to imagine a data pipeline is like an assembly line for information. You've got your raw materials, the data, coming in at one end. It then moves through a bunch of different stages, getting cleaned up, processed, and refined. And what comes out the other end is the finished product, a valuable, actionable insight. It's really a journey from chaos to clarity. Okay, so every great story has to start somewhere. For our data pipeline, that starting point is the foundation. And that's all about deciding where you're going to ingest and store your raw data before its journey can even get started. And this is a really critical choice because not all data is created equal, right? You might have unstructured stuff like images or log files. And for that, something like Google Cloud Storage is a perfect fit. But then you have your highly structured data from your apps, and that really belongs in a proper database. So step one is always matching the data to its proper home. So let's break down the main options here on Google Cloud. For your typical web app, your CRM, your bread and butter applications, Cloud SQL is fantastic. It gives you fully managed relational databases like MySQL and Postgres. But what if you're building something huge, a mission-critical global app that needs to be always on everywhere? That's where Cloud Spanner comes in. It's built for exactly that kind of global scale. And then for just massive streams of data, think IoT sensors or real-time financial data, you've got Cloud Bigtable, which is designed to handle petabytes. The key takeaway: you've got to pick the right tool for the job. All right, so our data has a home. Now it's time to get to work. We're moving onto the factory floor. This is the part of the assembly line where we take that raw material and start turning it into something clean, reliable, and, importantly, properly governed. And let's be real for a second. This is the truth for pretty much everyone. Data in the wild is messy. It's got missing values, weird formatting, duplicates, you name it. If you try to build your story on a messy foundation like this, you're just setting yourself up for failure. This is exactly where a tool like Cloud Data Prep becomes your best friend. It's designed specifically to tackle this problem of dirty data. It's an intelligent, serverless service that helps you visually explore, clean, and prepare all that data for whatever's next in the pipeline. And you can see right here why this is such a game changer. Instead of having to write a ton of complex code, you get this intuitive visual interface. Data Prep actually suggests transformations for you and gives you a health report on your data at a glance. You can see mismatched data, missing values, and fix them with just a few clicks. It's pretty amazing. But look, cleaning the data is only half the battle. To make our pipeline compliant and truly ready for the enterprise, we have to talk about governance. Because honestly, if you don't know what data you have, who can access it, or if it contains sensitive info, that data quickly becomes a huge risk instead of an asset. And that's the exact problem that Data Catalog is built to solve. Think of it like a library catalog, but for all of your data across Google Cloud. It automatically scans everything and indexes the metadata, giving you one central place to discover and understand all the data you actually have. Now, here's where it gets really crucial for building a compliant pipeline. With Data Catalog, you can add tags to classify your data. So you can tag a column as containing PII, that's personally identifiable information, like a name or an email address. And these tags aren't just labels. They can be used to drive actual security policies, making sure that sensitive data is automatically protected and helping you meet those big regulatory requirements like GDPR or CCPA. Okay, so we've got clean, governed data. Awesome. But a manual process of clicking buttons just isn't going to scale. It's time to head down to the engine room and turn this whole thing into a fully automated operational workflow. This is the job of an orchestrator. On Google Cloud, the go-to tool for this is Cloud Composer, which is a managed service built on the super popular open-source project Apache Airflow. It lets you define your entire pipeline as code, usually in Python. Then you can do things like schedule it to run every hour, or maybe trigger it to run whenever a new file lands in cloud storage. You get this great view to monitor everything, and, this is critical, it can automatically retry failed tasks, which makes your whole pipeline so much more robust and reliable. All right, our automated compliant pipeline is up and running. We've built the foundation, the factory, and the engine room. Now it's time for the best part, the payoff. This is where we actually get to extract the value and tell that story we've been working towards. And a first stop here is Google's powerhouse serverless data warehouse, BigQuery. All of our clean, prepped, and governed data lands right here. This is where you can ask the really big, tough questions, running incredibly complex queries across terabytes or even petabytes of data and getting answers back in seconds. It's where the deep analytical insights are truly born. But, a bunch of rows and columns from a query isn't really a story. To make those insights easy for everyone in the business to understand, you need to visualize them. And that's where a tool like Data Studio comes in. It plugs right into BigQuery and lets you build these beautiful, interactive dashboards that turn all those complex numbers into charts and graphs that tell a really clear, compelling story. So let's just take a step back and look at what we've actually built here. This isn't just some one-off technical project. When you build a data pipeline the right way, what you've really created is a durable, long-term asset for your business. We've really followed the entire data lifecycle. We started by picking the right home for our data. Then we sent it through our factory to get it cleaned with data prep and governed with data catalog. We automated the whole shebang with Cloud Composer to make it operational. And finally, we unlocked its true value with BigQuery and Data Studio. See how each step builds on the one before it to create this reliable, repeatable flow of insight. We started this by saying that your data has a story to tell. By building a compliant operational pipeline like this, you're not just moving data around. You're building the machine that tells that story, reliably, day in and day out. So the only question left is, what story are you going to build?